terrain generator HDA. Alright, so we have the terrain generator here. We import it into Unity and we import it into our scene. It will begin to process. It does have a default box that it does convert into a Unity terrain, and this is just so that you actually have something to see once you've imported it, so that there's, you know, some visual feedback. Alright, so this is a new tool that I recently developed. What it's going to need is just an FBX terrain. This FBX terrain will need to be positioned already in positioning in coordinates with, you know, all the other objects that you're going to have. And you can go ahead and you can select your incoming, either an OBJ or a FBX. And here we can see it's already got some textures and everything coming in. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go and select the terrain. We're going to make sure that the base distance is increased. This will allow us to see textures far in the distance. And we're going to reduce the pixel error. This will allow for the correct shape of the terrain to be populated at all times. So if we select the terrain generator HDA, you'll see here that we have an option to keep the FBX, and this will be used in conjunction with the object scatter HDA that I produced that requires a mesh input. So in this case you would have the Unity terrain as well as the mesh coming through. As you can see here, we have now Z fighting, and obviously you can just disable the mesh, and this you would just use for inputs for the scatter tool, which if you watch the video you'll see why that's important. I also have an option here to move the center of the terrain to world 0, and this is just in case the FBX is coming in and it's completely far out, and of course you'd need to mention to the engineers that the object is going to be moved to the center. You should see it jump here soon. There we go, and now you see it's actually repositioned itself right to world 0. So if we actually create a cube here and put it to 0, 0, 0, and we look from the top, you should see that that is slap bang in the world 0 of the object. So that's pretty good. I like that. We can turn that one off, and we can put it back into its normal position where it should be. You'll see this edge here, this is only being here at the moment because we have the resolution down to 257, and the resolution is set to 257 by default, just so that when you start right off the bat it's actually quite quick to process and you don't have to wait for everything to load at the 4K resolution. I would recommend once you're close to setting up your mask settings, then bump the resolution up, as the resolution does impact the way the masks apply themselves. So here we have your textures. You can say you've got your main, your secondary, your dry areas, and your rocks. So all you need to do here is tell the path, Unity, where the path is for your textures. Here you can see I've got a file here. They can be any formats. They can be TIFF, they can be JPEG, they can be sorry, they can be TIFF, they can be JPEG, they can be PNG, they can be whatever you'd like. And as you change them over here, they will update. Yes. You also have the option to increase or decrease the amount of overall tiling. So for example, we have this underlying soil texture. I'm going to make it 500 by default, and then 500 again, and you should see over here we're getting some nice breaking up of the texture. It's very nice. Over here we have some settings here where you can actually select the minimum and maximum slope, where some objects are where another texture is actually being assigned. You can do all sorts of things with this. You can get different looks, different positionings. Here you see a little bit more of the grass is starting to show up based on those settings. This is, so dry is to simulate simulates where the sun direction damage would be coming from. So here you can see we're on a minus 90. If I make it 90, it should flip everything around the other way. Maybe this one would be a little bit nicer for this terrain. As you can see, we're getting some nice dark edges on this side of the rocks, while this side remains a little bit lighter. You can of course change the spread angle. You can make that down to 90. It should create a little bit more of a harsher edging for you. Yeah. Then we have our rocks. This is essentially using just an over the entire area a mask that uses some noise. So if you increase or decrease the size here, you'll either get bigger or smaller bits of rock in the terrain. Very tough to see. It's kind of subtle, but this is obviously all dependent on the textures you do use and how well they blend with each other. We've just got some samples in here, and just to show how easy it is to actually change one of the textures, I'm just going to change this yellow that we're seeing. I'm going to grab this one here, copy the path, go over here, paste, hit enter, and you'll see this will change right over to whatever texture I've decided to put in. And if you go and look at the terrain settings, you'll see everything is in here, is in terrain layers. You can add your normal maps here if you need them. I'm not too sure why these two ended up with the same one. There's probably somewhere something's going funky. Yeah, here it says it's taking soil. Let's take rocks.tiff. We'll get some more rocky areas up there, I'm sure. Oh, mostly just all over. And that's essentially how you change it. You can see that the rocks are rocks. That one's got soil, that one's got that one, and that one's got that one. And this is the great start of a working terrain. All you need is the correct textures and to set up your tiling. Great. I hope this helps with you guys. Oh, let me just show you what happens when I up the resolution of the terrain. There we go. Now you can see we've got quite a lot of nice details. Terrain is looking really nice. Of course, this does depend on the quality of the FBX that you import. Upping to 4097 does take quite some time, so when I would recommend doing it at the end once you've set everything up. Otherwise, if you change any of the other underlying settings here before it, you're gonna have to wait every single time. So drop it back down to 257 and it will go a whole lot quicker, and you're going to be able to get a nice result quicker than if you had it on maximum resolution. Thanks.